The Assemblyman and I want to let's just help you understand some of the other steps that we're going to be taking above and beyond. Above, can you? Because I usually people say I have a big mouth, so I don't know when I'm too loud sometimes. Okay, can you hear me back there? Yeah. I can't hear you. Say it like you can hear me. Yeah. All right, say it like you can hear me. Yeah. Say it louder. Yeah. All right. So listen, this is a part of a process that we're going to be going through with you. We're going to have a hearing that we're recording and getting your ideas and your recommendations. You're handing us some testimony that we're going to be using as part of a package that we're going to be putting together. And we're going to have a petition circulating shortly that we're going to ask all of you to sign on, which is essentially going to be sent to the governor with the packages of the testimony so that he understands what took place here. And then we're going to try to also make sure we get a picture, who has the camera, of everybody out here. Whoever has the camera, make sure you get a picture because we're recording it, but we want him to see the crowd. We want to see your faces. And we might even send him a recording, a video, what do they call it, when you send it, YouTube or whatever. That's what they call it, YouTube? It's a snap, what do they call it? All right, so whatever we're going to make sure he gets it, and Instagram. But no, I'm saying this in all seriousness because we want to make sure the message gets to where it has to be. And not only to the governor, but we have leaders in our respective bodies who would probably very much appreciate knowing how you feel and what your agenda is for the upcoming budget and other policy matters. So I'm saying this now because I know at some point people have to leave, but I want to make sure you understand that certain things are going to be done before you leave. One of which is to circulate a petition that we're going to ask all of you to sign to begin with. And then we'll ask you to take some with you so that you can get other people to sign on to it. But what we do tonight will be packaged and brought to the governor's attention to begin with. You understand? So please don't leave until you get your name on the petition. All right, thank you. So we're going to move forward. Paola Jordan, correct?
Buenas tardes. Sé que en la audiencia hay padres que hablan español y lamento mucho si no han tenido servicio de interpretación, pero confiamos en que los que estemos aquí podremos ayudarle con lo que estamos diciendo el día de hoy. Good evening. My name is Paola Jordan and I'm a resident of East Harlem and I am mother of twins, Maya and Thomas. They will be 8 years old this March. Both of them have developmental disabilities. My boy started receiving early intervention services when he was almost 2 months old, and my daughter when she was 13 months old. As a family, we had to overcome many obstacles in order to access the services that they needed it. Today, I'm proud to tell you that both of my kids attend a public school in East Harlem, and they're making continuous progress. Reaching this point wasn't easy. On the contrary, it was extremely hard and required that my husband and I, and many other families, had to rearrange our priorities. We had to make sacrifices and invested thousands of hours and ferocious advocacy efforts in order to access what was needed for our kids. This has been a constant battle, navigating different systems. We were able to reach out to various non-for-profit agencies who help us and support us on this journey. We were able to connect with other parents, many of them in this room today, who were generous to share the journeys with us, and we had the support of many professionals who work closely with my kids and my family. The only missing component in our journey is the support from our local politicians and legislators who should work together with individuals with disabilities and their families to make this a priority on their agenda. The voice of our community and loved ones. Our politicians should advocate to secure more funding for different programs that serve individuals with developmental disabilities, such as early intervention, to support the special education preschools who offer high-quality therapeutic services that are not readily available in most public preschool settings, such as universal pre-K and pre-K programs and more. Politicians shouldn't be afraid to say disabled and recognize that individuals with disabilities are also part of their communities and recognize them as their constituents. I want to invite you to make a difference today, now, and to put disability front and center in your agenda. Our loved ones and families cannot longer be ignored. We're not just numbers. We are families, we're people, and we're part of the community, and we deserve that respect and acknowledgement. Disability is not a source of shame. It's not for my kids. It's not for my family. Not for many of my friends. Because for those who is ashamed, they're no longer my friends. There is no longer a need to distance ourselves from it, from the word disability. This isn't the 60s anymore. I hope that you too accept this invitation today. Today, you have a room full of parents and self-advocates that will be right here behind you, supporting your efforts. Do not waste this opportunity to make a change and to shape your future legacy for future generations. Thank you.
My name is Mary Krasner. My son Daniel is one of the successes that New York State can point to with pride. He is an example of how much help services can be for a baby born with multiple disabilities and medical problems. When Daniel was an infant, there was early intervention for babies like him. At 6 months of age, he started vision therapy, therapy that turned him from being legally blind to a seeing child. Early intervention is responsible for his growth in ways that are too numerous to count, and for which I will be forever grateful. Now, that early intervention program and 2 other vision programs like it are closed due to cutbacks. And sadly, other children born like my son with undeveloped vision may end up fully blind because of this cut. He then attended special ed preschool. That preschool had to be taken over, and like others, were closed. I can't stress enough what a difference spending money on little kids makes when the brain is plastic and growing. Spending dollars on this now saves hundreds, if not thousands, later. So arguing economy is garbage. My son is 27. He has come miles from his first days when his prognosis was he wouldn't walk, talk, or be able to do anything for himself. This is the power of early intervention and special education. Now we are at the point of needing a place for him to live when we are no longer around to take care of him. Like many other parents in our situation, the only choice at the moment is to live forever. But try as we might, we can't. The idea of not knowing where he will live and having any assurance that there will be help for him is what keeps me up at night. The only defense against my fear is denial. But that only solves momentary distress. There have been serious cuts to OPWDD's budget disguised under rate rationalization and budget neutrality. Budget neutrality is another way of saying you have the same amount of money no matter how many new people need services or whether expenses have increased. This is, in effect, a cut. These cuts leave agencies bleeding, needing to eliminate programs just to stay solvent. If this keeps going, I don't think it will be possible for agencies to supply what we need. At this very moment, respite, the service that helps my husband and I to do this every day, is on the chopping block. The state needs us to be there, but is not lifting a finger to make that possible. The state is not planning on creating a place for Daniel to live either. The sad truth about Daniel's situation is that he is not even capable of begging on the street if it should come to that. And with Albany's plans, we have no assurance that it won't come to that. Taking apart a system that worked reasonably well, but doing it without proven replacement programs, leaves behind a patchwork of services that don't reflect the reality of needs, with a monstrous bureaucracy that is close to impossible to navigate, burdensome and unhelpful regulation. All this is straggling our service system. We can do something about this. It is not inevitable. First, stop the bleeding. Restore programs that work. Recognize that there are those like Daniel who could not live with only a light touch from OPWDD. Supported housing, supportive employment, natural supports are all buzzwords that don't reflect the real needs of people like my son. I won't go along pretending that this change is better. It is not. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I am Ellie Roofer. I am the mother of Kate, a young woman with complex medical and support needs. I became an advocate to be sure she got the services that would allow her to develop to her fullest potential. Now I see the services that help us are disappearing. Given the current circumstances, it's time to get back into the trenches. Thank you, Willie Mae, for the opportunity. I am here to protect my daughter, Katie. OPWDD wants to find creative ways to administer services to Kate. I know that given time and money for development, that there is potential for meaningful, cost-effective change for the better. That's exciting. However, what is incredibly frightening is that change in every area of concern is coming all at once. Every new initiative seems to be the all-or-nothing variety. Programs are being dismantled without other services in place. Change needs to be done in incremental steps to make sense and to keep Katie and others safe. For us, we are dealing with the fact that the lease on my daughter's residence has not been renewed, and the agency has been looking for a new place for them to live for over 5 years. But the state's housing allowance rate is from 2007. They need a reality check. The cost of housing in New York City is not at 2007. So far, there is nowhere for them to go. Additionally, parents are aging, and there are those who still have their children at home. The New York State legislature must understand that for them, the idea of residential placement is now a mirage. It is virtually non-existent. At present, the only avenue to residential placement is a crisis. Families should be able to plan the transition to be least disruptive for the family. Our children are hypersensitive to change and cannot face the loss of a parent and the loss of a home without tremendous psychological damage. That is the fear we live with, and not without reason. There is nothing out there, not now and not in the future either. The only beds that become available are because someone dies. Moving people without having somewhere appropriate for them to go is far too reminiscent of the time New York State emptied the institutions for the mentally ill. It sounded lovely, move them into smaller, more appropriate settings in the community, whatever that means, except they never built those. Now many of our communities are struggling with a population of desperate people, inadequately clothed, fed, and sheltered without even the semblance of appropriate programming. It's heartbreaking. This cannot, and damn it, it will not happen to our loved ones. OPWDD was created as a separate agency because at the time New York State recognized that people with intellectual and developmental disabilities are different. They don't have a medical issue with the expectation of a cure. My daughter is not sick. She is a person who needs help with many activities that the rest of us do with ease and take for granted. She will need some sort of help until she dies. The OPWDD service system was built as a collaboration between parents, government, and agencies. Parents knew what their children needed, government listened, and together they created a service of voluntary agencies that worked well for decades. Parents are still the best resource for understanding what is going on. They know their family members' needs in a way the government never will. Please, we beg you, do not let OPWDD be swallowed up by an agency, the Department of Health, that does not understand the population they will be serving. IDD is not equivalent to anything else, and outcomes are limited by the realities of the people being served. We, moms, dads, and siblings, are worried and frightened. Years ago, we would whisper to each other our innermost fears. Now we are stating them out loud for you all to hear. We fear for their lives. We are worried about the future of our children. Where will they go? How will the providers stay? How will the providers survive? The real fear that we all say in the back of our minds that what's the worst thing that can happen? And not knowing is the worst thing that can happen. And what we used to not say out loud, and some of us are now, is that we hope our children predecease us. Because we can't put it on our other children. You know we will do everything possible to influence you to take whatever steps are necessary to keep us from that very dark thought. OPWDD and New York State have a proud history of creating the best service systems in the country. Please direct the governor and OPWDD to approach making changes in incremental steps with financial support and time to implement the changes to achieve a more creative, more cost-effective delivery system that will ensure the health and safety of all people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Thank you for this.
Again, thank you for your concern and your commitment and sharing with us your testimony today, your presentation. And so, let me ask you, the governor, have you had an opportunity to engage the governor?
He will not meet with us.
Okay, give me some background on the background on the efforts that you've made, or that some of you have made. Just give me so we can, for the record, we want to just get an understanding of some steps that more. Okay. I know everybody's touchy, so and want to speak on it, and I'll let everybody get a chance to speak on it. But right now, I'm directing this question to the person that has the opportunity to respond. Just give us whatever you want to give us about it that you think.
Well, as a parent, I am the co-founder, along with Mary Krasner, of New York City FAIR, which is a citywide advocacy group, and we've just announced a statewide advocacy group. And we're hoping that by sheer numbers, and this is amazing, and that we'll get attention. We do have the attention of the acting commissioner, but we've had an acting commissioner for what, 8 years? So we don't have a commissioner. None of the O's have permanent commissioners. So who's making the decisions?
That's what we want to know.
CMS. Helgerson. CMS. So in order for us,
have you written any letters or things of that nature that you can share with us? That you can share with us,
yes.
That we can then package and.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And really the issue at this point is that in a show of good faith, because actually the acting commissioner is a really nice lady with no power,
what's her name?
Carrie Delaney.
All right, just for everybody's.
Oh, she is. I mean, her heart's in the right place, but, that doesn't get my daughter a house. She convened a transformation panel that was representative of providers, self-advocates, and family members, not so much, but, a few. And at the request of the legislature. They put out recommendations for comments. The first 15 pages are just sheer dribble. The last 2 pages are the appendix, and they have some substance, but absolutely nowhere in there are ways for implementation. Right? They put out the HBS, the waiver, the new renewal waiver, 487 pages of incomprehensible nothing, with a comment period that started on Friday at 6:30, and Friday counted. Not nice. And it's not legible. They're doing WebExes. They did them all on one day. So if you couldn't do it Wednesday, you couldn't do it. It's supposed to be up online, but not yet.
Well, let me ask you, on that up online, what does that mean online?
On OPW's website. But it's still going to take us trying to decipher 487 pages of governmentese. Now the waiver is even worse because it's federal governmentese. So nowhere is there an executive recap to just point out the differences between the previous waiver and this waiver.
The frustration that you are experiencing, is there anyone out there that has, raise your hand. Okay, just want to make very good. I'm glad, just want to make sure, so, now.
So we can't even figure out where we are. And now the budget came out with a flat budget. And those of us who haven't, delved into it, but we know it's flat. Totally flat. And our workers are going to McDonald's for sure. I mean, they will.
Yes, they've already said that.
Okay.
They
So-
have to eat. They have to feed their families.
I just want to be clear. So in your efforts to get a response from the administration, give me an example of what you may have done, whether letter or what, however, that you may have sent. I don't want you from the audience right now.
He's part of New York City Fair, and he actually met with.
Okay, okay, thank you. Okay, go ahead. Identify yourself, please. I just want to make sure we don't get out of order. There's the podium. What's your name?
My name's Jim Karp. I'm a Queen's parent and the father of 2 children with developmental disabilities. And one of our colleagues in this new statewide advocacy network, Barbara DeLong in Western New York, has sent a letter to the governor every week for the last year asking for a meeting. We can send you that stack of letters.
It would be very helpful. It will be part of a bigger package that we plan on using.
Okay, we'll get that from Barbara. So she's great at documenting. She's part of the overall team. We've got all these people here, which is wonderful. We've got people across the state. So we're all here together.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you very
you.
much.
Senator Perkins, could you give
No,
us
we're not.
email information?
Okay, we'll do that. We'll do that before we leave. Just make sure that we don't leave until we do that. But I don't want to get into that kind of exchange right now because then it opens the door for other kinds of interruptions. I want to hear from those who have come to testify first, and then we'll get into some other strategic discussions about where do we go from here and things like that, if you don't mind. So just hold on to those good ideas for now, if you don't mind. Okay? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you again for allowing us to air our voices. My name is Laura Kennedy. I'm president of NYSARC Inc., a family-governed organization of over 100,000 members statewide, and I am a parent of a young woman with a developmental disability. I am proud to be a citizen of this state, proud that New York had the courage and determination 40 years ago to address a failed system of institutional care that was exposed during the abysmal days of Willowbrook, and changed to a system of care that has been a model for our country and the world. Families, professionals, advocates collaborated with government to develop community-based services of housing, day programs, supported employment, and family supports in a planned way. We went from a government that was ignorant, arrogant, and indifferent to one that has supported and provided an array of supports so that people could be included and valued members of their communities. But now that is all changing. The system of innovation and supports is unraveling before our eyes. I am angry and frustrated, and I know many of you are. And why? We need a governor whose actions clearly demonstrate that he values those with IDD, their families, and caregivers, and works to preserve services and programs for our most vulnerable people. The difficulties that families have been securing needed supports, particularly housing, in a timely manner, speaks volumes to his indifference to our issues. A clear example of this is the slow dismantling of OPWDD, an agency created in the aftermath of Willowbrook to protect and oversee services and supports for people with IDD. For several years, we have been told that the present system of services is unsustainable, that it is too expensive, and that it must all be transformed in order to meet the needs of a growing population, and a population that more intense needs are due to aging and those with severe behavioral challenges. Good grief. Residential development has come to a gradual halt. The voluntary agencies that have not been able to offer appropriate wages to our DSPs for many years. Why are we told that our programs are unsustainable? What are the financial projections that have caused this governor to change the course in providing reasonable resources to OPWDD? Unsustainable? The families and dedicated providers deserve answers to these questions. Governor Andrew Cuomo prides himself on being a doer, a transformer. He's working hard to transform the landscape in New York, replacing the Tappan Zee Bridge, a project costing $4 billion. And Governor Cuomo will do this without raising tolls, foregoing $700 million in toll revenue. He plans on spending billions to fix up LaGuardia Airport, and he'll spend billions more on a new Penn Station and a Hudson River tunnel. He wants to help the workers in New York. He's mandated an increase to the minimum wage for fast food workers, workers in state government, SUNY workers, and many others. Beneficiaries' focus must be the DSPs, those dedicated individuals who perform the crucial and critical tasks of caring for those with IDD. They have their own families to care for as well. No mention that they should be guaranteed the $15 minimum wage. Why? 3 years ago, Governor Cuomo came to the College of Staten Island, the place that was once the site of the Willowbrook State School. He came to talk about his vision and his ideas of building a better New York. I had been invited to listen to his presentation, and outside of the auditorium, our disability community, over 400 people, were protesting his budget cuts to OPWDD. After his remarks, I approached him and mentioned that he needed to amend his presentation to include people with disabilities in his vision for New York. He was silent in his response, and then I handed him a copy of our position paper and his budget cuts, and a copy of the promise his father Mario Cuomo made when he closed Willowbrook in 1987. He told me he would review the matter. His father's promise, inscribed on a bronze plaque not 20 feet from where his son spoke, reads in part, "The end of this institution symbolizes the success and appropriateness of New York State's commitment to provide an extensive and comprehensive program of community living opportunities for its citizens with mental retardation and developmental disabilities." And where is that commitment today? Today, by our count, there are at least 6,000 people waiting for community residence, and that number could be very well higher. We don't know the exact number because OPWDD did not have reliable data. We are grateful to the legislature who passed a law mandating that OPWDD come up with a number by next month. In the end, regardless of the number, the question will remain, will this governor provide the necessary resources to expand residential opportunities? Will this governor provide peace of mind to elderly parents who have at home their adult child with IDD and need to ensure appropriate long-term care? 20 years ago, then George Pataki created a program called New York State Cares. That program guaranteed a residential opportunity for all New Yorkers with IDD. This governor must do the same. Yesterday, the governor presented his budget. Overall, the budget doesn't come close to meeting the needs of individuals who have been waiting too long for services. There is some reason to believe that the executive branch may understand the needs for immediate relief to address pressing issues. That is encouraging, but the reality is such that we as family advocates must continue to persevere with continued strong advocacy, and our voices need to be loud. We must continue to do all we can to convince this governor that our community is hurting and that he has it within his power to change it for the better. It's always easy to blame others for denying supports, the feds, Medicaid, CMS, managed care, Supreme Court decisions, and the like. But the bottom line is that he is the one in charge, and it's his decisions that matter. We must work to ensure that this governor understands that those with IDD their families and caregivers deserve to be included in his vision for New York. We have not seen that. And continuing to provide appropriate level of resources for people with IDD to live meaningful lives in their communities has to be as important as a bridge, a tunnel, or an airport. It matters to us. Thank you very much.
Okay, so whatever correspondence that you or anyone has shared with the governor, please make sure our offices get it ASAP.
Thank you.
There's a partially as a follow-up action that we want to take in terms of communicating this hearing to the governor, so that your voice will not just be heard here, but be taken it to Albany as well. And so, if anyone else here has correspondence that they have shared with the governor, we would appreciate it if you get it to us as well. So
How do we do that?
well, we'll talk about that in a minute, but hold that question, we'll answer it in a minute, but I just want to focus right now on getting you prepared for some of the follow-up actions that are going to be taken subsequent to our evening, okay? So if you have anything that you want us to share that you've written, we will forward it as well. If anybody else has anything that they've written, we would like to also forward it as part of what took place at this particular hearing. So we'll talk some more about it once we get to the end, and we'll have a sort of open kind of dialogue about next steps, okay? So I know you may be anxious, but hold that anxiousness until everybody has finished with their testimony, and then we'll have a dialogue about where do we go from here in terms of some steps that need to be taken to communicate what you're sharing today with everyone that's important in this process. That doesn't simply mean the governor. We have other legislative leaders in both houses that probably would appreciate and benefit from knowing not only about the turnout, but also about the message that came out of this particular gathering. So we're going to want to go beyond just to this evening. We're going to follow up with some other activities, and we'll discuss that at the end. Okay? All right. Thank you. Any? Carol Karp, a.k.a. KK.
I feel like I don't even have to introduce myself. Good evening, everyone. My name is Carol Karp. I'm the mother of a 25-year-old young man with a rare genetic syndrome. When my son was born, I had no idea about the world I was entering. I had one child, so I assumed I'd have no problem dealing with the nuances of having a child with special needs. What I didn't know then, and most certainly know now, is that mothering skills is not enough. That's my reality check. I needed to wear 100 hats, being a lawyer to fight for my son's rights, an interpreter so I could understand the hundreds of acronyms that permeate the provision of services to him, a medical doctor so I could diagnose his needs and find proper care for him, an educator and job coach so I could help him achieve his highest level of independence, and even a real estate broker to try and negotiate a future placement for him. But really, all I wanted to be was his mother. I have hard facts. My son's not going to be able to earn a livable salary. He will rely on public funds for his needs. For all the made-for-TV movies and documentaries showing capacities and capabilities of young adults with disabilities, finding jobs, traveling, moving into apartments, there are thousands upon thousands of young men and women like my son who cannot sustain employment, cannot move into apartments without support. That's society's reality check. My son would like to live in an apartment, and he'd like to live with his best friend, who happens to be a girl. He won't marry, though. He won't start a family, so his family will be his friends, a definition that's not recognized in the housing world, which still only acknowledges nuclear families. He'd like to live in his community, which is the area he grew up in. He'd like to have his dog with him. These are not extraordinary dreams, but for him, given the lack of housing for people with disabilities, given the restrictions on housing for people with disabilities, given the rules and regulations inherent in certified housing for people with disabilities, And given the continued erosion of services to people with disabilities, this dream cannot become a reality. In the last century, there were significant steps taken to address how we as a society think about people with disabilities. Unnecessary segregation and institutionalization of people with disabilities was met by new laws, such as American with Disabilities Act, the Supreme Court decision in the Olmstead Act, as well as the closure of institutional facilities such as Willowbrook. Even today, developmental centers continue to be slated for closure. The vision was and is that services and supports should be provided to individuals with disabilities to allow them to stay at home and in their community. The reality check? That's not a true or fair statement. There's no housing for people with disability. There's been no real attempt to seek new models of housing for people with disabilities. There is not even a waiting list for housing for people with disabilities. There's lots of talk about personhood, individualism, self-direction, and community, but there is literally no housing for a person with disabilities unless the caregiver, parent, or family member falls ill, is hospitalized, or dies. There are over 300,000 people with disabilities statewide, the majority of whom are residing with their family members. Without new housing and without new housing options, none of these individuals will receive residential placement or have an opportunity to live outside childhood homes until an emergency forces a placement, which placement is usually in a more restrictive and more expensive setting. Housing by crisis is not the solution. New York City has prioritized housing for other specialized populations. We've prioritized for veterans, and that's great. We've prioritized for the mentally ill, and that's fantastic. I support those priorities, but now is the time to make housing for people with disabilities a priority. There are steps we can take. New York City must prioritize the creation of new housing for people with disabilities. We need to educate housing providers on the needs of those with developmental disabilities. We need the city and state to incentivize builders to build and offer apartments to those with disabilities. We need to allow people with disabilities to have choices in housing and have services follow them. We need real housing options for people with disabilities, and we need them now. Thank you very much.
Housekeeping, since we're getting ready to make a transition. As he's coming forward, we have a list of folks who apparently have, it says here approximately 80. Well, just want to, that's why I'm doing this. That's right. If you have a number, listen for your number as it's being called. So what we might want to do, because we have quite a few folks, we might want to have people come up 2 at a time, if that's okay. 3 at a time? Okay. That doesn't mean we're going to shortchange you in terms of making your presentation. It's just that we know that there's a lot of folks that want to represent. That's number one. Number two, and again, we want to make sure that everybody have a copy of what you're sharing with us, that you make sure we get it. We want to put it in part of a package. We're going to make sure it gets to the right leadership, whether it's in the Assembly, the Senate, or our governor as well, so that they can understand how important this matter is to you, and they can be given some understanding of the details that you're sharing with us.
On the flyer.
All of us have personal, official emails, perkins@nysenate.gov.
R. Rodriguez at NYSA.
Listen up. You want him to share it? Okay. Would you come forward and share it on behalf of
No, yeah, well, he just said.
Okay, but go get, we we're going to want you to communicate and share. And of course, the petition is coming down, before you leave, we want you to sign the petition as well as another way of representing some of the concerns that you have. Yes?
Will the petition be online also?
We can make that happen. Yeah. that we can make that happen. As soon as my staff comes down with the paper petition, we'll give you the details on how it will be online. Anybody has a picture? Something, there's a picture. Anybody have any other visual? Okay, do you have signs or whatever? You can raise those up too. Here, there's somebody else over there have one. On that end, open it. On that end. Break, sir, put it over. Let them over. Go over there with it. Go over there with it. Okay? Go over there with it. Go. Okay. So that's it. Okay, put it up. Just put it up high. I hope you don't mind. You have to leave. Okay. But this, we do that, no, but the picture test is 1,000. The picture sends a message. You want to send a message which way you can. Yeah, well, I will, but I'm in charge here. That's for sure. You got to remember that. The word please is a good way to start. No, I'm in charge in this office. Okay, here we go. I know you don't care.
So while the petition is circulating, we'd like to bring up number 11, our friend over here, to continue sharing the message, and then 12 and 13, come join us so that we can get you right afterwards. Keep us moving.
If you could. I don't know how you can
Yeah.
do it, but
Good evening, everyone. My name is Evan Squamina. I'm a state employee. I've been working for the state for 27 years. I'm also a local president. I'm a direct support worker. My hands on and hands off. Now, I may use some language here that may not be appropriate, but I know I'm not going. Just not, you know. I've watched the state went from sugar to you know what, in a heartbeat, and it's kind of sad to see that the people we serve is practically being treated as if you're watching an Oliver Twist movie. You know, Oliver acts some more, and then suddenly it's like, how dare you even open your mouth to say something? The respite program, I heard a person spoke about that, and it was very sad to see that there's no respite. Now, me as a parent, I have 2 children, grandkids, that has autism. And it's very hard sometimes on my daughter, because sometimes she's like, please take them. Just take them for a weekend, take them for a couple of days, so I can get a break. And there is no respite. I watch our respite programs over the years that I've been here, gone. Parents are needing help, they want services, gone. I've seen them close a bunch of facilities, including mine over many years, which is Metro. But they're placing individuals in homes that is not appropriate for them. And it's not a good thing. It is not a good thing to see an individual whose function level is totally different to those that the service that we share and that we need. The other thing is the pay equality between the public sector and the private sector. It needs to be balanced. The private sector needs to get there with the public sector and balance the pay scale, because our individuals likes to see a particular face 24/7. They don't like new faces. If you know our individuals very well, they do not like new faces. They like to see the faces that they knew for years, months, weeks, days. When you take them and put them in settings with different faces and stuff, you create more problems. Their behaviors begin to come out. You know, things bad happens. And this is something that we need to see, the pay equality between the private and the public sector. My last of all, I'm not going to take up too much time, but there was a bill put on the state floor, the governor vetoed the bill, that we want, the state employees, we want to be part of the request for services. We want, this is a good job. I'm not going to lie to anyone. It's a good job. I've been doing it this long. It put my kids through college, put my son in the Navy, got a scholarship. Everything is going on because of this job. And we want to be part of this request for services. The governor came through the door and said, I am not building no new facilities. But we have a whole lot of people, ain't no place to go.
That's right.
So I don't know how that is going to happen from now till the end of time, but we have people and parents and families that's aging out, and they need to place their children. And when he's saying no new facilities, that is a disservice to everyone. And if you don't know now, and you're going to find out later on that it's going to get worse before it gets better. I don't care who took the money and stole the money and all the stories that went on with CMS, but we're here now, and we need services.
Thank you. My name is Jackie Cianzo. I am the mother of 2 boys, Joey, who will age out of his services in June, and Andrew, who is with me tonight, his sibling. He came in place of his brother. Andrew, at this young age, has a lot of faith that this hearing is going to result in some tangible changes. Since Andrew was born, he has seen us fight for services for his brother. Our family's unmet need is how will we care for Joey at home once he ages out of school this June. When Joey was 8, we started a program, as this man mentioned, with respite and recreational activities for Joey and kids like him. It's a not-for-profit, it's private pay, we help people as best we can. My son's nonverbal, he has seizures, he has really challenging behaviors, and there's really not a lot of places that are lining up to take him. We're in our 12th year, we run 7 days a week, and we run 48 weeks of the year, serving 175 kids a week. And I say all this because I'm able to take on a challenge like that, start a 501c3, and I can't figure out how to sign up for self-direction. Self-direction for our family seemed to be the answer for what we need for our son. We didn't want a traditional day program and a residential placement. Well, you've heard all this tonight. We know there isn't going to be one for Joe. We want to make a plan based on Joey's needs, and self-direction really seemed like the answer. From the minute we started the process, it became apparent all was not as it seemed. Joe's budget was cut by $20,000 from the initial assessment to the day of the launch. Literally from 1 month to the next, his budget was cut, and as I understood, all budgets were cut across the board arbitrarily. I figured, okay, he's still under 21, I'll get to that later. But no, we launched in November of 2014, and in January of 2015, I was called into a meeting by Joey's fiscal intermediary, his FI, another acronym for my friend there. They told us that they may not be able to continue as an FI because the fee structure had changed. Initially, the FIs were promised that they would get a percentage of these kids' budgets in order to make them work. It was viable. Then that was changed, again, at the drop of a hat, and the fees making it no longer viable. And many FIs are going to probably get out of the business. So here we are with a program on paper that should have all the flexibility to give our son the valued outcomes we want. And in less than 4 months, the changes were so radical that they threatened the viability of the program. It's only gotten worse. You need a broker. Our broker doesn't want to be a broker anymore. Things that we were getting reimbursed for, like transportation, we're no longer getting reimbursed the way we were. So many times I was told yes, only to be told no later, and then after I fought back, they said, well, maybe we can look at that, but unfortunately it's past the 90 days, so we can't revisit that issue. So I ask you, would you trust this program as the alternative as it's been touted? We're T-minus 6 months till my son's 21. I've worked for the last 2 years and the last decade trying to secure funding for him as he turns 21, to see it fall apart in the last 6 months. What is the alternate to the alternate? Leave self-direction the way it was. On its first design, people were happy with it. Yes, it needed work. It needs to get simpler with change and more flexible, not more complex and rigid. Parents are angry. Things have been promised and not delivered, all throughout the system, not just in this area. Yes, change needs to happen, but with common sense. And I frankly don't know what I'm going to do with my boy.
Good afternoon, guys. Good afternoon, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joe. I'm from the Bronx, South. I would say I'm the president.
Hello, Joe.
Hi, guys.
Everybody say hello, Joe.
Hello. These principals like to help people to get jobs. You know, to make sure they do get jobs on time. Like they need like jobs so like people could get hired because the economy's not doing good. You know, with the people like need help. You know. For these guys, they can help us to help us get jobs, So I would like to say, government, please, will you like to help us make sure these people get a nice job, make sure they could be safe,
Okay, it's numbers 14, 15, and 16. Please come up.
14, let's go.
17, 18, and 19. Start making your way. We're going to get the show moment.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth DeLoreficio, and I just want to say how eloquent everyone has been. Gotten so much out of your testimony, and everything you've said is my life. And I want to thank Senator Perkins and Assemblyman Rodriguez for hosting this. I'm the mom to my daughter Nika, who's 18, and Nika has, she's medically frail. She has severe, I guess you would call it, developmental disabilities. She has epilepsy, she has cerebral palsy, she's nonverbal, but she's really, really bright and just amazing. And so, when your child is 18, it's like a whole nother world because 21 is looming. And everything's been kind of relatively, it's been a real fight, but at least I knew she would have a good school, and she's had a good school, but I don't know what's going to happen when she's 21. And as part of this process of being 18, we had to get guardianship for her. And as part of that process, we needed to identify some backup guardians, and we don't have any other children. I'm an only child, so we turned to my husband's brother, and him and his wife kindly agreed, but they asked us if anything does happen to you, what placements are available for Nika. And there's no answer to that question. There's absolutely no answer, and the answer is I can't die, and neither can my husband.
Exactly.
So, we want her to stay with us for as long as we can, but I want to just be able to die. And I just don't see that. I want to be able to die happily. I don't want to be able to die. I don't want to die. I want to be able to die happily. I want to leave this planet thinking my daughter's going to have a future. Safe and happy. And I don't want her to be put in a nursing home. I suppose she has nursing home care, but she's not, she's so alive. And just to reiterate what everyone else has to say, I have the same concerns about the self-direction program, which is what I'm counting on. I also think about maybe I would like there to be a good day program, but I don't know what options are there, and I don't know how much they get funded. I'd like to be able to get some information about that. Also concerned about direct service providers not making enough money because we rely on them. And I would also encourage our lawmakers to increase funding for any research being done for brain-based disorders and especially epilepsy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. By the way, for those of you who don't live in the district, you can still sign the petition. So this is not a petition just for people that live in the neighborhood. This is for those who have a concern. That's what this petition is. So it's going to be circulated not just here tonight, but while we have you, we wanted to take advantage of the opportunity. And we would even like it if you could circulate it, take one with you, and maybe circulate it and get it back to our office as part of a package that we'd like to send to the governor on your behalf, okay? So don't hesitate to take petition and circulate it amongst whoever you think is appropriate so they can be a part of this effort as well. Yes, sir? Yes. Yeah, we will do that. My staff is going to work on that, and then we will as per your information that you have shared with us when you signed in, that's how you get, we can either send it to you or you can contact the office and see it online. Okay? Okay, and I'm glad that you've asked that because that's a very valuable way of getting a message that will help folks take you serious. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Gail Schiller, and I have a daughter who is nearly 16 who has both Down syndrome and autism and suffered from a debilitating seizure disorder known as infantile spasms as a baby that left her much more disabled and with more brain damage. As a result, she is extremely delayed, multiply disabled, she is nonverbal, still not completely toilet trained, needs help with eating, dressing, bathing, grooming, and all personal care needs, and has numerous very challenging behavioral and OCD issues. I am divorced, have 4 other children, including my daughter Karen's twin brother, and Karen's other siblings are grown and out of the house, and I cannot care for her on my own or much longer all on my own. Her father is almost never available to help out and is planning to move to Los Angeles in a couple of years at most. Then I will be 100% on my own caring for Karen rather than 99% on my own. I need a residential placement for Karen where I know she will be loved and safe and cared for. I have been caring for her almost single-handedly for 16 years with some assistance, thank God, from Medicaid waiver programs and Medicaid. I have advocated for her, as we all have, and gotten her all of her school and Medicaid services single-handedly for 16 years. I'm effectively her MSC, as we all are, and much more, because the MSCs don't seem to really do the job. It has taken a huge toll on my marriage, my professional life, my family, my faith, even at times my mental health, I have to admit, as I'm sure you can all relate. The government's so-called solution that I can basically partner with other parents to run our own makeshift home is not a solution at all. It is basically dumping all the responsibility of caring for my child on me and other parents for the rest of our lives, and then other children's lives if we are fortunate enough to have other children. This so-called solution is not realistic or practical at all, considering that we are all getting older and will not live forever. I personally have been so horrified and besides myself over the government's decision to stop building residences and to dump all responsibilities for running makeshift homes on us, the parents, that I've been taking steps to research and start a business to help other parents like myself deal with this nightmare. I know that it is way too enormous a burden to expect parents to find properties to rent or buy and to renovate them when needed, to find other families whose adult children have similar needs and budgets, to effectively advocate for funding and needed services from the nightmare bureaucracy of OPWDD and other agencies, to find trustworthy staff and backup staff, and to oversee the running of these makeshift residences created and run by parents, not social service agencies or professional staff, as should be the case. To make matters worse, the government and OPWDD has allotted no budget at all to pay someone like myself or a company like I'm suggesting to help parents through this quagmire, to help parents find the right housing, other families to partner with, to find decent staffing and provide backup staffing when needed. These tasks are full-time jobs that someone needs to be compensated for because it is impossible for parents to work or have lives and set up, run, and monitor their children's homes as well. There has also been no budget allotted to pay a manager of the residence, someone trustworthy who can manage the staff and make sure backup staff is called when a staff member doesn't show up or calls in sick, and someone trustworthy who can ensure that our children are being cared for properly and with love and compassion, not, God forbid, mistreated or abused. The idea that a staff member making $14 an hour, and that's based on what I'm hearing, very, very high, can manage staff, this is what I was told by OPWDD, that earns $12 an hour, so that the managers are making $2 more than the actual staff according to OPWDD, and they should be trusted to make sure everything is running smoothly and that all the disabled adults in the home are being cared for, is honestly just a ridiculous supposition. This is a ridiculous concept I just had mentioned. I heard from OPWDD staff as to how the funding be provided under self-directed care would be enough to make sure our children's makeshift homes are being run properly and our children are being cared for. Creating and running a makeshift home is a burden that no family with low-functioning, high-needs children should have to bear for the rest of our children's lives after taking care of their children for 21 or more years. There is so much a parent can handle before cracking, especially as they and their children age. And there have been countless tragic cases of parents cracking under the pressure of raising severely disabled children with autism and other special needs. Too many of these stories have been in the news. We don't want to hear any more. The government also needs to provide low-income housing solutions for the disabled as it does for the poor, tax incentives for real estate investors, contractors, and architects, and higher rent and mortgage allowances to make creating these makeshift homes, if we're going that route, an actual feasible reality rather than an impossible feat, especially in New York City where the budgets allotted for rent or mortgage payments fall very short of what is actually needed. I understand New York State is under financial pressure, but the government is supposed to take care of the least fortunate in society who need the most help, and disabled children and their parents should be at the top of that list. I urge the government to start building homes again. Small homes are fine so that disabled adults can be integrated into the community, which is a commendable goal that I've heard over and over from OPWDD. But the homes should be started and run by nonprofit social service agencies as they have been for years until the government declared it was no longer building new homes, and claimed that self-directed care would lead to higher functioning adults moving out of homes and making space for lower functioning adults like my daughter. But we know that is not happening, certainly not at any pace that makes a difference for families like mine, and there are thousands upon thousands of families on waiting lists who have no residential options for their children and disabled adults living at home way into their 30s and 40s, usually because families have no other option. This is just way too much of a burden to put on aging parents and siblings of disabled adults. I simply cannot pass this huge responsibility onto my children who need to care for their own families. The government takes care of the homeless, people with low incomes, veterans, the mentally ill, and many of society's most needy populations. The government needs to continue to care for the disabled by continuing to build residential homes and by providing the funding to hire people to do the work of creating these homes, staffing them, managing them, as well as increasing the payments for rent or mortgage under OPWDD's self-directed care program. I would love to get a sense of whether parents here feel they could benefit from the services I'm describing, and if they would be interested in working with me or a company similar to mine in the future. I would like to know if I should be focusing solely on my PR business, which was my actual profession after years as a journalist, or trying to further develop my company called Ray of Light Resident Solutions, named for my daughter Karen, whose name means actually Ray of Light in Hebrew. And I feel that I could help other parents like myself, and I actually feel a sense of moral obligation to do so if there is a need. It's apparent that there is way too large a burden to put on parents of special needs children who will not live forever. It's apparent that someone, actually many people, need to fill the void left by the government's dropping the ball and forcing the parents and families of special needs children to become makeshift social service agencies, which is basically what the government is doing. I'm trying to figure out if one of those people should be me, or if we should just keep advocating for more building of homes. Please feel free to speak to me in private afterwards if you think you could possibly benefit from the service I described now or at some point in the future. If the better goal is to advocate only for residential homes, that's where I'll be, but it does seem many parents are interested in a self-directed program that actually works, especially for higher functioning adults with special needs. But there is no doubt that we do need more building of residential homes. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jim Foster, and I'm here to My name is Jim Foster. I'm here to advocate for my son George. I could say a lot, but I'll say very little because a lot of what I have to say has already been said. George is a multiply handicapped, needs 24-hour care, and we care for him at home lovingly and without complaint. My wife and I are both retired. I'm 73, and at some point in time I'm not going to be able to take care of my son, and we need 24-hour housing. We've had almost a complete lack of building for the last 10 years. Funding has not been available, effectively reducing the available monies by inflation. It's time that we start to fund 24-hour housing for our most vulnerable citizens. I read some of the budget proposal, and I'm astounded that we've allocated $1 million to study why, how many rooms we need, what our needs are, and $1 million isn't a lot of money on the face of the New York State budget, but it's ridiculous to spend it on consultants who are going to walk around the state. That one thing, you should get a conclave together in Albany with the representatives of the nonprofit service providers. They'll tell you what they need. Parents will tell you what's needed, and you can put the $1 million towards 1 or 2 houses. Right? One other thing I'd like to say is that every year when the budget gets proposed, it's something new to all of us. We never get an opportunity to talk about the budget before the budget proposal hits the deck. And every year, in my memory, it's been a disaster. Why can't we arrange the budget process in such a way that we could have comment before we have that budget on the table, and maybe, just maybe, not have this confrontation?
Okay. Great suggestion. I want to comment on that. That's a great idea. We'd like to move forward towards that end. What we might want to do, apropos that suggestion and some other suggestions, if there are folks, when we get to the end, that want to stay for a few more minutes to be a part of a planning/action committee that will take up this idea and a few other ideas that may be appropriate, don't raise your hand, just stay. Okay? Because I'm not trying to impose on everybody. But for those that are so inclined, it will be a planning committee that will obviously get back to everybody in terms of some suggestions. We have a sign-in sheet, so at least this group that has signed in, whether they're here or not, will be apprised of whatever that sort of strategizing, planning kind of committee comes up with. Okay, so you will stick around if you can for a few more minutes. It's not going to be a wordy kind of thing. We just want to see who wants to be a part of it, and then we'll follow up with another planning meeting. But if you think you want to be a part of that, stick around for another 5 or 10 minutes. That's all.
I would like to show you just one more picture of my son. This is my son stimulated. This is what happens when he has services and can be stimulated on a 24-hour-a-day basis. He goes to the UCP rehabilitation program, and this is kind of the result of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. No, let him go. That's good. Now, we're going to ask for some discretion in terms of allowing this young man.
Up next. Go ahead.
I am 58, almost 59. I have never seen the disabled community disrespected as this government is doing today. I have never in my life seen the government disrespect the disabled all over the place. You know what he told us? Go back where you came from. I got news for him. He got a war and Tom Feather. Because I am not going back. I came too far to turn around. Over here. When you make the deal with the governor, I want to be here. I got a story to tell. I want to be that person because when you said his father, how can he undo what his father did? Father, I would take him in the back. But you know that it's not right. It's not right.
It might be right. It might be right. He might need it.
Cutting program, the way he is not giving us enough money to pay the people who work for us. I mean, it's so ridiculous. So when you make that meeting,
I'm bringing it.
Don't go yet. Don't go yet. Don't go yet. Tony, don't go yet, please. Just hold on. I want to make sure. Did you want to speak? You want to say something?
Sort of like,
okay.
now, right?
Come over here and say something. Where's that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
running his team. Running his team off. How you talking about why you don't get the money? Because this send the money to the war.
The war. The money is going to the war.
That's right. That's right.
We got to pay them for the war. He not the government fault. They want us to sin. That's why the money goes to the war. And not don't kill them, don't kill the politicians because they can't do nothing. They eat little men just like us.
That's right.
The big man they lobby go to Capitol to fight.
Go to the Capitol, fight. Go to the Capitol, fight. Go to the Capitol, fight.
They can't do nothing.
They can't do nothing to hurt us, right? Can't stop us.
No. But just to go fight for your rights.
Fight for your rights. Fight for your rights. Fight for your rights. Fight for your rights. Fight for your rights. Fight for your rights. Fight for your rights. Fight for your rights. Fight for your rights. Fight for your rights. Fight for your rights. You need that? Okay. Yeah, he needs his petition. You see, he's serious. He ain't just making speeches. You need one too. All right, everybody, you're going to get one here. I get that for you. I get that. You want me to read something for you? Okay. Oh, okay. You want me to read this?
Yeah.
Housing, affordable and accessible transportation, education, training for medical providers, come to UCP, home care, increase salaries. Okay? Anybody agree with that? Yes, all right. That's the speech that ends the session for tonight. I think it couldn't have been said any better. Yes.
I just have
Very good.
sentences.
You have how many sentences?
3 sentences.
Okay. Now, then.
IDEA is an entitlement. It's a federal entitlement. After 21 is only based on eligibility. Yeah. Why can't we, whose children and siblings and students are living to 70 and 80 years old, 90. Why can't we have an entitlement, a federal entitlement?
Federal entitlement. Everybody say federal entitlement. Federal entitlement. Federal entitlement. Okay, so I want you to meet. Okay, you'll get a chance. You'll get a chance. The lady that just spoke, what is your name?
Zenobia Man.
Zenobia?
You rock. Man. You rock.
See us before you leave so we can talk a little more to see what action we can take collectively to make something like that happen. Okay, now we are nearing the end. And I believe we've had a very productive, full evening. Please make sure that everybody has signed the petition. If you signed the petition, raise your hand. If you didn't sign it, stand up, please. No, because we want to have somebody come see you so you can sign it. Now, the other thing I want to make sure is that everybody takes a petition. Now, I know some of you know how to do petitioning, and all we're asking is that you take a page and make sure we get it so we can include it in the package with the love letter we're sending to the governor and our colleagues, okay? Excuse me? What do you think? Okay, that's a question that's being asked, by when? It would seem to me that if you can get it to us in the next few days, it would be useful. It would be most useful. Okay? So, do you have an idea related to that? Yeah. So what's today's date? And what is 5 days from today? And what day does the 19th fall on? Tuesday the 19th.
Make it Wednesday the 20th. It's a round number.
Okay, listen. How many people think that it should be in by Tuesday the 19th? Okay? Now, I know people like to email and text and all that kind of stuff. Fine, you can do that as well, but paper shows more drama. Okay? Paper helps. Don't forget the old-fashioned ways that got us to where we are today. Doesn't hurt to do the new stuff as well, but delivering paper, okay, is much more dramatic. You understand? People don't always read their text messages. They have an excuse. Paper. Excuse me. The address for the city office is right here, and the Albany office is, everybody, listen to me. The New York office is preferable, but if it's more convenient, the Albany office, we're online. You know how to, you know what we have. Yeah, okay. Don't give up the fight.
Don't give up
The fight. Okay, all right, now we're finishing. So, okay, what is it that you had in mind, by the way?
I have residential treatment centers.
Okay.
Because of the excessive hospitalizations and psychiatric wards that don't work for our kids.
Okay. But we're not.
25 hospitalizations.
We had a list. Let me finish. We had a list of speakers. Are there any other speakers that are ready right now to speak? We went through the preliminary list that was given to us.
There were 2 people. I was on the original list, so I don't know how I ended up with number 25.
Okay. Well, whoever has to speak, please come forward so we can get to that. We want everybody that wants to speak to speak. We just worked with what they gave us. That's all we can do. Okay? So since... Okay. No. We're working together.
That's hers, I think, and I just want to make sure, I was going to put it on the chair for you. That's good,
Ladies and gentlemen, please, do me a favor, out of respect, would everybody please have a seat? Would everybody, if you're leaving, can you wait a minute, just have a seat. Yeah, you're leaving, but can you just have a seat? I don't want anybody at this table right now, because it's disrespectful to the people who are making some concluding remarks. And so, if we didn't, then we have to respect each other in order to win. You can't win by not respecting each other because we are a team, right? And everybody needs to be heard. We didn't put a time frame on when we're going to end. We are planning on ending when everybody that wants an opportunity to share gets that opportunity to share. You understand? If we don't listen to each other, how do you expect anybody else to listen to us? Okay?
Go ahead, go.
So, okay.
We're doing it in order of briefing.
Okay, so what is that order that you decide?
Go ahead.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, they need to just go ahead.
Okay.
It's on? Yeah. Hi, my name is Joanne Henry. I'm an advocate, a community advocate. I'm 75 years old. I have a niece, first cousin rather, who is disabled. Her name is Margaret. She's 71 years old. And what I just want to say to everybody is, I'm from the Willowbrook days. I'm from Willow Mays days. And we don't want those days to come back. I am a retired 1199 organizer. I'm a state committee woman retired. And what I would like to say is, please, do not make this a one-time thing. This is just awesome that you are all here. But we need you to continue to make sure this is taken care of properly. We don't want any more Willowbrooks. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, my name is Paul Catone. I am the brother of a person with developmental disabilities. He's my big brother. He's 66 years old. I am now his legal guardian because my parents are gone. I'm also the director of an agency in Brooklyn. I've been doing this since I was a teenager, since the mid-60s. I've seen it go from Willowbrook to having great services to what we're facing now. This is the Willowbrook of this generation. And we can't ignore what's going on. We've been way too polite. I have a list of 10 specific recommendations that I'll give you for the written part of this. But basically, the first thing is, in terms of unsustainability, that's what our services are called, unsustainable. Well, what's happening right now? Because there are no planned residences, when a crisis hits, people wind up living in the hospital or the psychiatric ward. I had one person who was stuck in a hospital and nursing home for 18 months because her brother died in the apartment with her. She didn't even know he was dead. She was with him for 3 days. And subsequently, she was in a nursing home and hospital for 18 months. We were able to finally get her a residence at the Guild, where I am. Another fella, parents died. He was in a psychiatric ward for 3 months. He didn't need to be. It's just that he was afraid of being in the hospital and he began to act out. Is it any more sustainable having hundreds of people stuck in the hospital over a period of time? No. Is it right?
No.
We have been way too polite. Back in the day, we would have marched around Albany
Amen.
blowing whistles.
Oh, yeah.
So what day, what time are we gonna do this?
Yeah, well, I think we need to. Everyone has been afraid of angering this particular governor.
No, some of us are not.
Yeah, some of us have been, and there was
So
a
let me ask you a
march.
question. Those who are not afraid, raise your hand, please.
Hey.
Okay. Those who want to
Let's
stay.
go say hello to the governor.
Those who want to say hello to the governor, say hello.
Hello.
All right. So now let's do this. Just so we can bring this thing to a closure with action.
Yeah.
So those who plan on joining with his suggestion, wait 5 minutes at the end. Those who don't, no problem. We love you anyway. This is a planning committee for staging the next steps. You'll all be informed. Just make sure you sign the attendance sheet so that when the plan is finalized, you can be on the mailing list for the upcoming events that relate to what the group can plan. So this is a planning group for the next step in action in Albany. Okay, next.
That's it. I'm done.
Focus on, we'll be waiting for those who plan on waiting so we can get this done. Real 10 minutes, doesn't take a whole lot for those that want to be a part of the planning. Yes, next.
This is complicated, but I'll make it quick because I know you're all tired. You want to eat your dinner. Right. Okay, my name is Paul, aka Seriously Underserved. His medicine was working. 10 years, he lived in a group home, took Accessoride, worked for Lifespire, went out, delivered, Meals on Wheels, say, God bless you, enjoy, great kid. Has a touch of autism, pervasive developmental disorder. Can lose it. He went to a place with services when he was 16 because of all the over-medication we do in New York. And what happened was they got him off all the medications, took them over a year, and he's stable for 10 years on one medication. Thanks to outsourcing and our lack of FDA monitoring, okay, his medicine no longer had the medicine in it because it's outsourced to like about 5 different countries. His levels of cholesterol fell. Aggression started to come. So we call OPWDD now, right? Because the group home just keeps calling 911, 911, 911. 2.5 years. This happened in March 2013. 2.5 years, 25 hospitalizations before acquiring an appropriate intermediate placement. We don't have them. We have only 1 or 2. Would you hold that a moment if you don't mind? This is what they offered him. Bernard Feinson.
Oh, Lord.
Okay? It's the old Creedmoor grounds. All right? He would be here with the buildings surrounding him. Here's the administration building, state of the art. Yeah? But meanwhile, the patients live in there. We said, no, you're not putting that face in this. Then they said, how about Rosemount? Sunmount, upstate, by the Adirondacks. Okay, 3 charged with assaulting. State police said 3. A month earlier, related to 1 teen, right, February. 2, like within 3 months, I had about 8 counts of assault. Matter of fact, Cuomo was going to try and close them down. I don't know why they still did. My mother told OPWDD it looks like it is a nightmare, and we should be ashamed that this is all we could offer. OPWDD told my mother, this isn't Paul's voice, but he'll be locked inside. Okay, so here's one if you want to take a better look. Okay, you want it? Sure. This I'll take. So 25 hospitalizations after, right? Some of the hospitalizations, they play with the meds. They needed benzodiazepines, which made them more aggressive. You know how many times I got beat up? Trying to avoid it happening in the group home. Then the doctor's like, you can't remove those. They got to be done in the hospital. One doctor took away all his meds, especially the ones that worked, instead of getting rid of the ones that we told him didn't, because I keep med logs of every single medicine he's had. He's gone through 23. Cholesterol's the only one that worked. They call me up. He hit a patient. We have to talk about discharging him. Wait a minute. Isn't this a psych ward? Hello. Right? They don't treat them right. He was on room restriction. Instead of 5 days, it was like 3 weeks. They just don't like our people. They don't know what to do with them. Never mind they're on psychiatric medication. Never mind a lot of the things. They sum it up to behavior. Tell that to the mental health system. It's behavior. You know, do some rewards, you'll be fine. One, as a matter of fact, Jamaica Hospital said, oh, no, wait, it was Long Island Jewish, said, we're not residential facility. If you insist on keeping him here, we'll just put him out in the lobby and he'll be homeless. Queens Hospital Center said, we're not admitting him. Just have him arrested next time so he'll learn to cope and control himself. Woodhall says, we're not going to admit him. He appears fine now. Jamaica Hospital said, this is all the times that he went. These are just some samples. I have 24 violent and out of control patients. It's dangerous for me to be on the phone. He has a developmental disability. We don't have the ability to work it out with him. I mean, this is what they do. We're his legal guardians through ARC. ARC is on standby because he has no other family but me and his father. You know, they didn't even consult us. They break the law. They don't even care if you're the legal guardian. All right? I went to Queens Councilman, Mark Wetburn, because back in 2000, when Pataki wanted to close the children's freestanding mental health facilities, I was one of the primary advocates in that because I was hired in a pilot program to be the first paid parent advocate in a New York State mental health children's facility. So I fought along Mark Wetburn, Senator Padovan. They're still standing. However, I don't know where that's going, but I can't help my own kid. Do you know what that feels like? You help save 6 or 7 freestanding hospitals, you can't help your own kid once he's an adult. Here. So I had to get Councilman Mark Wetburn, who got in touch with Assemblywoman Gunther's office, who gave us and told us there's an OPWDD advocate. Who knew? It's the best kept secret. 25 hospitalizations later, we finally got him in Rainbow Commons on Long Island. I wasn't putting him in that or that. There's a place called Wood Services. It's gorgeous. It's in Pennsylvania, 85 miles right outside of our city. Right next to Sesame Place, if you are familiar. They have different programs, about 5 different programs for different kids. And they have like little neighborhoods. And for the adults, they have like their own little neighborhood. And an enclosed, what do you call that? A sheltered workshop. And they get paid. They go on outings. They wouldn't fund it. How ridiculous is this, right? It's $140,000 for a year. Everything's inclusive. Because they have an interstate pact with Medicaid. But yet, $140,000 for a whole year, but 25 hospitalizations is cheaper. It's cheaper. No. New Jersey just passed a bill to fund out-of-state RTCs. That's residential treatment centers for when they need psychiatric help, right? Why is it taking us so long? I don't get it. So I wrote to de Blasio's office. I spoke to Shane Anderson there, who's head of developmental people with disabilities, the Office of People with Developmental Disabilities. And he says he couldn't really help me, but we should have a residential treatment center for the developmentally disabled. He could only refer. My mother wrote, this is in Paul's voice, to Governor Cuomo's office asking for help, and I received a thank you. You'll get that letter. I'll forward it to you. I received a thank you for my concern.
Yeah, please make sure we get that letter.
I will.
All right. And we might take the liberty of sharing it with others.
Absolutely. I've written to the press. I've written to, what's her name? Delaney. Yeah. You can't believe how many people, nobody cares, not even the newspapers. When you send a story like this and a picture, they don't even want to touch it. What is with our government that no one wants to go against them? In a place like New York, we should be ashamed. We have no intermediate care or residential treatment centers. for our DD population of adults when they need them, except a few on Long Island, and that took 2.5 years of and 25 hospitalizations. All the while, I and those around me were in danger. It should not be this hard. It shouldn't be this hard. This is my son's voice. I am ashamed to be living in New York and see this indifference to the needs of a percentage, that's my word, but his voice, okay, of the DD population not have what they needed. Are you ashamed yet? Really, we should be ashamed that we don't have residential treatment centers for them, and they're in and out of the hospitals, and they're not treated well, and they're on medications. Sometimes they need a year in a residential treatment center where they go for walks, and they have a yard. Now my son has a program he goes to while they're working with his meds. And then he goes back to the house, and he has staffing, and he's safe. And you know, in his words, now this is his words, he goes, I have a life now. Okay? So this is what they offer, the old asylum. There's RTCs in other states. And we're not catching up for a place like New York. What is wrong with us? We're supposed to be like the leader of everything. And it seems like we're not. Thank you.
So we are wrapping up, and we need to make sure that everybody's clear about the homework and the follow-up, okay? Excuse me, what are you saying?
No.
Back in the day, it reached a point where Mrs. Goodman had to involve the young lords in order to protect her daughter.
Well, the young lords are no longer young, but they're still but no, let me finish. But they're still active, some of them. So, you know, I'm of that era. So, and some of them are still out there trying to bring justice to issues like this, and we need to we can bring them into the fold. I believe they would be very strong on this cause. So that's a good suggestion that we regroup some of those that we know that are still around. I know Felipe is still around.
Senator, can I interrupt you for a minute?
No, not right now. But I'm glad you asked. Right, because most people wouldn't do that, and so I want to hug you for that. Because that's reward good behavior. Now, so let me just be quick, because folks are running out, and I don't want them to run out without knowing what we're going to be doing, because we didn't just come here to hang out. We came here to get some marching orders, because there's some work that has to be done. We're in a desperate situation, and we can't just hang out. So there's a few things. We're going to make sure that whatever petitions that we have are given to Governor Cuomo, our Mayor de Blasio. In each legislative body, there is a leader. In the Senate, there's Andrea Stewart-Cousins. In the Assembly, there's Carl Hastie. And then in the City Council level, there's Melissa Mark Viverito. These are the leaders who can be very influential in terms of their voice of support. And we want to make sure that they at least know what is going on. The worst thing you could do is for a politician to say, well, nobody told me. We don't want them to ever say that, because we want but we want to make sure that we do our due diligence in informing our colleagues of the concerns that have been brought to our attention, okay? And now, we can't make nobody do nothing, okay? But we at least have a responsibility to inform them of the efforts that you have so diligently and effectively made to communicate what is happening that should be fixed and that should be improved for the sake of this particular community.
Excuse me, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, now, an acquaintance, she left.
Cannot hear you.
An acquaintance that I met at one of the respite houses that my son attends at a respite. Am I on?
Yes, we can hear you better.
Okay.
We can hear you better.
And I met her there, but she recently left. And she was telling me about parents, about some law about parents being paid to take care of their children.
Yes.
Their own children?
Yes. Senator Perkins voted for it.
Okay, well that's good, because that's one of my things.
Okay.
I'm getting ready to sue the city of New York. I just had a hearing because.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Let me just do it. I think you asked the question, we gave you the answer.
Okay, but
what is it that you'd like to do?
I would like to, I'm in the last part of it. So right now, I'm suing, because I had to stop working when my son was diagnosed with autism. And I've been on public assistance.
Okay, the only thing I'm
I
asking,
can help
people
you.
are
I
leaving.
know how to hook you up with this.
Okay, but
So let report, without having to say much more, I think.
that's why I want to talk to you, because I want to work with you.
Okay, so, and this young lady what's your name again?
Liz.
Liz, what?
Laura Ficcio.
Okay,
And there's
so,
also
so
the,
could you,
and there's also the, I'm also the New York State Disability Advocate for New York State. That's what I do.
okay, so this is what I'd like to do. Would y'all connect?
Sure.
Exchange?
Yeah, definitely.
Exchange contact information?
Yes.
And let us know what we have to do to follow up?
Okay.
Okay?
You
So
voted for it, thank you.
I understand, but I just want to make sure that we don't just talk, that we have action-oriented suggestions so that this becomes productive.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because very often, people are very eloquent, but nothing gets done. And I need to make sure that the time that you've given us, you know, the Assembly member and I are very grateful that you bothered to come to us to begin with and have some faith that we are worthy of your attention. And we want to continue that faith by making sure that there's some action. And, okay? And so that's why I'm trying to make sure that everything ends with an action-oriented thing. So her concerns, you're going to follow up on.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right. So, again, we are going to be sharing with our colleagues on every level of government who are in leadership positions the petitions and related information as per what we did today, this evening. Okay? If anybody have a problem with that, please speak on it now, but I'm trying by some form of consensus to let you know what the actions are that come to my mind that we think would be useful. And if you have a problem with it, let us have a conversation about it. But if you don't have a problem with it, your silence is good enough.
No, I have something I'd like to add to that.
Okay, if you have something to add.
Okay, the fact is too, they use a cop-out of, okay, everything should be community services, everything should be community oriented. A kid like my kid, instead of being 25 hospitals, we need to have things where they can be treated, get help. Residential treatment centers and residences.
Okay, that's fine. Now, we testified, we got the information, there's some actions that we take. There's a petition that you hopefully all have signed.
Yes.
If you want a copy of the petition to take someplace, to get more signatures on behalf of the cause, let us know and we can make sure you get it. And there's action that we are talking about in terms of Albany that engages us in a way that the governor can not only hear us, but see us. Am I correct? Is that what I hear?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a planning that has to take place. That planning will be a volunteer effort. If you're interested in being a part of that planning for the Albany effort, stay seated when everybody else leaves. We're only going to take 5 minutes to get people's names, and then we'll convene another meeting later to talk about the details of what you want to do in Albany. Okay?
That's good.
All right. So is everybody clear about that? Yeah. Okay. So just to give me an idea, how many people want to be a part of that planning? Okay. Okay. Now, so that's sort of like, as far as I'm concerned, the end of this evening's conversation. Which is to say that the only ones to remain are those who want to make time, place for a follow-up meeting where we will plan the Albany strategy.
Right.
Am I correct?
Right.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you,
Is that it? Okay. Let me look at it. No, this is a signature picture. We got to make sure it's the right one. Okay. Move over. Slide over a little. Slide over a little. Just a little. Just a little. Right there. Just so it's centered. Just so it's centered. Yeah. Okay.
Say money. Because donuts. Guy needs to look fine. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 10 to 1.
Okay, Picasso, you want to take a picture or paint a picture?
Hold on, hold on.
later.
Everybody repeat after me. Be fair. Be fair. Say it louder. Be fair. Be fair. Be fair. Be fair. Be fair. Be fair. Be militant. Put your fist in the air. Be fair. Be fair. Be fair. Be fair. All right. All right. Okay. Here we go.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully we'll get in some trouble. We'll make some trouble.
This one came out better than this one.
I don't have your name by now.
We're done. Listen up. Yeah. That's one last observation, just so we're clear. Hello. Yeah, right. Listen up, please. I just want to be clear. As far as I can tell, we're finished. There are a group of people who we've asked to sign with their contact information for follow-up purposes. Please, who has the list? Who has the sign list? Okay. Let me just make sure, because I don't want anybody to... Let me see the list. You have the list?
Yes.
Is that the list?
Yes, they can sign here.
No, but where? I want to read off the names.
They didn't sign it yet.
I asked people to sign before we even took a picture, didn't I?
No!
All those, listen to me. All those who are going to sign, have a seat. All those who are going to sign, listen up, this is the... Have a seat. And those who are not going to sign, good night. Okay? Those who are not going to sign, good night. And we're just going to take a minute to sign people up so we can get back to them. Okay? Okay, well, let's sign you now. Okay. To avoid the confusion, let me ask, listen to me. Don't speak while I'm speaking if you don't mind, especially my staff. Okay? Those are the only ones I can try. Listen, the only thing I'm asking is, if you're gonna be, listen up please, I promise you won't hear me forget. If you're gonna sign to be a part of the follow-up meeting, organizing meeting, I just need you to sit down. If you're not gonna be a part of the follow-up meeting, then I would like you to leave, because I just want to deal with the people.
I'm sitting.
Okay. So I assume everybody that's sitting is a part of the follow-up. Am I correct?
Yeah, but it's on here.
Well, as you go to bed, that's when the enemy goes to work.
No, but we're getting old, you know.
We're not getting old.
70.
Yeah, that's not getting old. That's not getting old.
Okay, so where's the paper so we can sign? We need the paper.
It's here.
You got it, okay.
That's all I want. I'm not asking for anything but that. So we can follow up. I think we have to follow up. So I don't, very often people have these meetings, they leave, and then there's no follow-up. There's nothing done. So that's all.
You got the energy.
This was the easiest part of what we're trying to do, is to have a town hall meeting. The hardest part is to get politicians to do the right thing. If we ain't prepared to do that, then we shouldn't even have the town hall meeting.
Are you all a part of the? Are you a part of the? Go ahead, sit down. Go over there. He wants a group picture of all of you.
You said to have a seat.
Yeah, no, have a seat over there. Bring a chair over there so you take a picture or stand up.
Okay. Then everybody
But you were talking about New Jersey, so I'm like,
all right, now, by the way, if you are not here to sign, listen up, ladies. If you're not here to sign,
We are.
okay, let's come around.
Take a picture, move in.
Because I just want to say it's not here.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just want to make sure that we're not getting away from everything is community services and then I'm giving them that.
Right, and we're doing that's why we're signing to follow up.
I know, but that's why it's
when Governor Cuomo says it's unsustainable, that word is just,
I don't want to.
is it
Right
sustainable to give tax breaks to oil companies? What
I'm agreeing with you.
First of all, it creates new jobs.
But I don't want to talk about that right now. Meeting's over. I just need time to sign people up.
Do you want them to come second?
No, I don't want that right now. I got to do this business. I'll take care of that later. I'll take care of that later.
Okay.
great.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure whoever's here is a part of this conversation. Yeah.
Are you signing?
The first thing is I got to get my son. We can have fun. Went out the door and it's all.
Senator, I have lobby day March 7th.
Okay. So what we might want to do, the first thing I want to do is I want to see is, let me ask a question for, because other people talking, I want to make sure. Are you a part of this conversation? Yes or no? Because this is I'm serious. I just want to be clear. All right, listen up. If you're a part of this conversation, that is, you're going to be a part of this committee, then I would prefer you sort of come sit over here and not talk to each other, because now we're doing something that's a little bit different.
Exactly.
Okay?
Agreed.
That's too much noise.
Agreed.
Now, by the way, so if you're not a part of this committee, I would prefer that you leave. Because you understand, because there's no need for you to be here. And if you want to wait for somebody, don't wait for them around here. Wait for them outside of that door, by the elevator. That's all. We're not going to be that long. But I don't want the confusion.
Are you signing?
Of people engaged in conversations.
Move in so we take a picture with you.
About anything more than what I want us to talk about. So, Robert, is she going to be a part of this committee?
Yes.
Okay, can she come over here? Because we're now, sir, we're now at another part of the meeting. If you need to have that conversation, I support you if you take it outside.
Okay.
Okay, if you're not,
I'm going to listen to you right now.
but you're going to sit and listen. Okay, you're not going to,
Please.
no, I'm going to do it my way. Please is precious. Right now, we're not doing precious. I'm very serious, because I don't want to be spending all hours with you, and you don't want to give up all your time, and then everybody leave, and then
Tell them to come closer in, so I can take a picture of them. If she's a part of it, come closer in.
I'm not interested in you either.
I know.
So don't be giving anybody instructions.
I just want to
you
come
take your
closer
picture
in.
the best way you can. So I don't want to hear your voice. Okay, otherwise you can leave. Okay? Okay. That's the only way I can do it. Some people are sweeter than me, and I prefer that, but that's not how I get it. Judge Judy, who's she?
There's only one Bill Perkins.
Yeah, I'm Bill Perkins. She needs to watch me. Anyway, so listen, folks, the purpose here is that this was a good meeting. Give yourselves a round of applause, because a lot was done, and we can do a lot as per what was done. But we have to follow up, okay? And the follow-up very often is more difficult than this. Because people will come to this and have something to say, and then when it's time to go to Albany or have a letter writing campaign or all the other things that make things happen in Albany and city council and places like that, they ain't there for that. They're there for this. You understand? And that kind of thing. So we're not there for this. We're there for this work that people came here to fix. So you are the team that's going to be leading this, right? Now, all I need from you is two things. Name, address, phone number, or other reliable contact information. Then, the second thing is, upon getting that, we will make a determination before you leave, when there's some kind of consensus, to have a follow-up meeting. And then we will send that follow-up meeting as per the address or contact information that you give us. So all we got to do right now is decide when ASAP you want you that are here now to reconvene to talk about how we're going to take what we have done today to the governor. And other places, but first to the governor. But we also want the other legislative bodies, Senate, Assembly, Council, to also know the cause, and on their level, be supportive, okay? But right now, there's only one thing I'd like to be able to accomplish with this group, after you give us your name, your contact information, to make sure that he has it. Philippe is his name, okay? Philip in English. To make sure that we have that contact information to reconvene, okay? Now, anybody have an idea, like, when is a good time to reconvene? Is a weekend good? Raise your hand. A weekend. Some people are good on weekends, some people are good on weekdays in the evening. I'm just trying to get an idea. It could be in my office, it doesn't have to be in this place, because we don't need all that. I got a big office, we can meet in this building. I think, where's the office?
8th floor.
9th floor.
What is the
12,
office?
suite 12, 912.
Okay, 912, 9th floor, this building, okay? Senator Perkins' office. Now, when do you want to reconvene at that office to finalize the arrangements for what we're going to do as per this hearing that we had today?
I like the weekdays.
Weekdays? Weeknights, okay, some people like the nights, some people like the days. Evening? What's an evening for you? When does the evening start for you?
After 4:30.
Okay, after 5?
5 o'clock is
Because people
beautiful.
work after 5.
After 5.
Okay. Huh? I know, but I just want to say after 5. I didn't say 5. I said 4:30 is before 5. Does anybody have a problem with sometime after 5? If you have a problem after 5, raise your hand. Okay. If you have a problem at 7. Okay. At 6. Okay. What's better than 7?
6.
There it is. 6 o'clock is the time. The place is upstairs in my office. We have enough room. Then the when. Now, the sooner the better. Everybody agree? Okay. So, what's the day? What day of the week is this?
14th.
The
Thursday the 14th.
Thursday the 14th. And you don't want a weekend like Saturday.
We do next week.
Okay? Or you're going away, when you coming back?
Well, I'm going next
When
Friday.
I didn't ask you all that. I said, when are you coming back? She's want to give me. Huh?
February 1st.
Okay. February 1st is.
That's why early next week is good.
Okay, give me what's good for you. Let's see how that works for
For
everybody.
the caucus.
If we can. Let's see what happens here.
Monday, Wednesday night next week.
Monday or Wednesday night?
Monday, no, either Monday through Wednesday night next
All right,
week.
Monday through Wednesday. Who likes that range? Who has a problem with Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday?
Not Wednesday.
Okay.
Not Wednesday.
Who has a problem with? Okay, who can do Tuesday? Raise your hand.
Tuesday the 19th.
Okay. Who can do Monday? Raise your hand.
Monday's Martin Luther King Day.
Huh?
Monday.
Oh, that was a great time to have it then. In honor of Dr. King, he would want us to do this. You think Dr. King would want us to take a day off?
I think so.
I think he would want us to do something in the spirit of the movement that he got, that he put. So I like that day. So let's see if we can do the 19th, the Martin Luther King? 18th? Okay, is the 18th good?
Yes.
We should start off on, that's a good.
That's good momentum.
Yeah, that's a good spirit. That's a good spirit.
Right away.
Okay? Who has a problem with the 18th? Don't say nothing to me now, say something to me later. I don't want to out nobody. But I'm assuming that everybody here is agreeable to Martin Luther King Day, Monday the 18th, which is a holiday. And what better work could you do on a holiday than honor him and the cause for which we came for today? Keeping the dream alive, keeping the promise.
Well, I don't want to be a thorn on your rose, but on
I love thorns.
On the 18th, I have to take him to respite.
Okay, when can you be available?
I won't. After that, can I come and just get you know?
Okay, good. That's very kind of you.
Meeting,
So
and then I can pick
we'll
up
give you an update. Come by and you get an update. Thank you very much. Yes?
I have a question. I can come, but I have to bring my son with me, which is okay with me.
Bring whoever you think is important to you. Bring whoever you think is important to you.
The problem is that it's a holiday.
Okay, okay.
A lot of us, our sons are in, children are in programs, day programs, and on Martin Luther King's birthday, they don't have a program, so we're home with our children all day.
Bring the
It's not a
children.
good day.
Well, what about
So,
Wednesday?
but can you,
I'm not anti-child.
you have Senator Perkins.
Okay, listen to me. Let me finish. Listen to me. As per your concern, let me ask you, could you provide, if you could give us an alternative that's agreeable, it's fine with me.
No, I have alternatives, but I'm talking about for other people.
No, don't speak for others. Right now, everybody here has to speak for themselves, if you don't mind, only because I'm trying to make sure that everybody is representing what they are committed to do. If you speak for others, they'll you understand what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
Yeah, so just,
I hear you.
if you have a problem with the 18th, say so, and we'll change it. Okay, that's all I'm saying. You have a problem with the 18?
No,
Yes?
no.
Fine, she brought it up, it's not her problem.
Okay.
Who else has a problem with the 18?
I'll bring my son, so I don't have a
Okay,
problem.
bring your children, and then we'll, if necessary, we'll feed them too. I don't wanna get caught up in, we're not gonna let the children, babysitting situation be a problem. Free at last? No, we're not babysit. Bring the kids, bring the kids. And if you're gonna bring your kid, let us know in advance so we can make arrangements to do what has to be done to keep them happy. Or less of a problem. So we know that children are very much a part of what we do, and so we don't want anybody to be handicapped because they have a child. We'll take care of whatever needs to be done. Just bring the child.
Okay, so can we repeat that again, the whole thing, the time, the place, et
Okay,
cetera?
somebody else repeat it.
Monday the 18th.
No, I want to make sure that somebody's paying attention.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, Monday the 18th, 6 p.m., 8th floor.
Ninth
You're listening. Very good. You are now all gotten an A for paying attention. That chorus proved that you all understood what I was saying. So having done that, so unanimously, we can go on home.
Picture, 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 picture. Picture.
It's up to them.
Picture. You've had your back to me all the time. Picture.
Listen, we're going to count down.
Picture, picture,
20.
picture.
Move it. 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5,